Blog Talk Radio.
What's up, George?
Just another week. What's going on, man?
Not much. I kind of hear an echo.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out in a few minutes.
All right, so here we are. We got BJPenn.com radio live right now. Who do we have on the docket tonight, George?
We are going to start off with a guy that's been making a lot of news around a lot of MMA sites and forums for the condition with his heart. Dan Hardy is the first one, and a lot of interesting stuff with Dan. And then I don't know who we got. We getting TJ next.
Yeah, TJ Grant.
So we got TJ Grant, good submission fighter. Coming up hard in the 155 division. And then we will end the show with Danny Castillo, another 155er making a lot of noise.
Yep, and before we get started with the Dan Hardy interview, I want to say that we launched a new show this week called Late Night Cage Side. George, have you checked it out yet?
I haven't had a chance to because I've been getting stuff ready for this show, but I was planning to check it out, tonight or tomorrow. So we have so much content now. We got various radio shows. We've got so many different articles and exclusives, and there's so much stuff that you have to make time for it all. So especially another big weekend coming. So
yep. Well, Late Night Cage Side, what it's about, it's bringing like the best fighters around to the radio network on BJPenn.com. It's hosted by a guy named Tony Camps, who's hailing from Milwaukee, who actually has his own local radio show out there, structured around mixed martial arts already. And he's coupled by a guy who's been with us a long time named Chase Raymond. He's one of our writers, one of our featured writers on BJPenn.com. And between the two, they have a really good chemistry and mixed with a nice level of professionalism for radio. And it airs every Monday night at like 10 p.m. Eastern time, so it's a late night show, but it's pretty good. This week they had who do they have on, George? They had Leonard Garcia, and they had some other badass featherweight.
I don't remember. Like I said, there's so much. We have so much content coming out now, and a lot of new guys on board, and there's so many new shows that it's really hard to keep up with the amount of content that we're putting out, let alone even somebody else. When somebody else asks me about, did you see this show? Did you see this show? I'm like, man, I got to get our own shows first before I can get to somebody else's. So it's not that easy. You want to get around to them all, but 30-minute interviews. You need to make time for 30-minute interviews. But yeah, those guys are doing a great job. So be sure to check it out. I'll be sure to check it out later tonight for sure. So.
Yeah. They did good. What I liked about Tony, he's the host of the show, is this guy. They took a lot of listener calls, and that's really what they're focusing on that show is not only fighter interviews but interacting with the listeners. And he was really commanding when somebody called in, and they took their time and they took too much time. He was just like, "All right, see ya, peace, gotta go,"
Yeah.
No. Seriously, this guy was like a hard ass about it, but it worked really well, man. It was a really good show, and I'm excited to bring them on board with the BJPenn.com radio network. And anybody listening, Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, BJPenn.com. Check them out. It's called Late Night Cage Side, and it's a really good show.
Yeah, sometimes you have to lay down the hammer and filter out some of the bullshit that you might get. until you have a call screener, and then maybe they can filter out some more bullshit. But yeah, you never know what you're gonna run into. Even last week, we had callers from Australia and France. We had callers from everywhere. So you never know. Like when you're broadcasting on the internet, you reach a lot of people, and we have a lot of fans from everywhere. I mean, that, better than anyone. When we go, you meet fans from, when we're at shows, we meet fans from everywhere, literally. So I'm not surprised, and let's see. It'll be interesting to see how the show evolves, So, yeah, if he's got to put the hammer down on a few callers, then so be it, right?
Dude, it was really cool. I really liked his commandments of the mic and the airtime. It's pretty crazy when you think about it, because I started with BJPenn.com almost 6 years ago, or maybe even over 6 years ago, and we were a little community on what was called the Ning Network, and we had, I think, like 12,000 subscribers a month to the website, and we've grown into this monster thing, We're the top 5. We're in the top 5 MMA news sources online. We have 3 radio shows now, and we have a 4th in development. It's going to be our first video podcast coming out later this month. There's just so much going on, and as the director of BJPenn.com, I've never been so busy, but at the same time, I've never been so excited. With the support of BJ and JD, it's been a real awesome experience.
Yeah, I remember. That's the Dark Ages, the Ning Network. Like that was the that was where all the blogs would show up. BJ's video blogs. Yeah. They were like 30 seconds, or no, they had to be 42 seconds or less, or something like that. And everybody would hang on every last second of them. Like, there's another 42 seconds of BJ's life. What's he training? What's he doing? Everything with the Marinoviches and all. That was the. I don't want to say that was the beginning, because if you go back to the archives, there's the original site where, it had the it had the Rumble on the Rock stuff. You could order the Rumble on the Rock DVDs off the site at the time. So yeah, this, I don't think people realize, but we've gone through as much evolution as as almost any MMA site. Notwithstanding some sites like Sherdog, maybe MMA Weekly, but we've gone through a lot of evolution, from the beginning to where we are now. It's crazy.
It's insane, man. And we're only going to get bigger. We are one of the few independently owned websites out there. MMA Junkie, they're owned by USA Today. The Bloody Elbows of MMA Manias, they're owned by SB Nation. MMA Fighting is owned by SB Nation. But we hold true. We're independently owned and operated, and we've been here for a very long time, and we will stay here for a very long time. George, we have a caller from the 395 area code online right now. Mr. 395, what's up?
Hello.
What's going on, man?
Can you hear me?
Can hear you just fine.
This is French Mo.
Mo, what's going on, man?
What's up?
Not much. What can we do for you tonight, brother?
I want to go and just hear the interview of Dan Hardy, and I don't know if I can speak with him, but I think that's too much asking.
You know what, Mo? I would totally let you on the line with Dan Hardy, but George and I taped the interview with Dan probably about 2 hours ago. So it's not a live interview. Dan has a really busy schedule right now, so we had to pre-tape it. But it's 40 minutes long, and he tells us more than he's told anybody else about his plans for the future, what his Wolff-Parkinson syndrome means to his career, and what he plans on doing. So definitely check it out, man.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about this, about his health situation.
Well, you'll be happy to know that he is not as down on it as everyone else seems to be. He seems to be okay with it. I think mostly because it really doesn't even I won't get into too much because we've got the interview coming up, but it doesn't seem to really be like bothering him as some sort of physical ailment. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that guard. Dan's a pretty tough, versatile guy too. Been through a lot. So
there it is. Yeah. All right, Mo. Mo, I'm getting ready to play that interview right now. Okay, so just hang tight, listen to it. If you want to call and you want to talk to TJ Grant or Danny Castillo, feel free to call us back, man. We're going to have those guys on the line after the Dan Hardy interview, okay?
Okay, so right now I'll listen to it from my computer. I'll call it later.
All right, brother. Thank you very much for your call. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. See you.
Mo. George, that was Mo, man.
Yeah, we were just talking about France, weren't we?
That's our guy in France, Mr. Mo. Thanks for calling in, Mo. We appreciate your support, brother.
So yeah, we're going to get into Dan, and I didn't want to get into too much, because this is a really, really, really interesting interview, and it's quite lengthy. Dan gets into a lot. So
it's 42 minutes and 30 seconds long. I have it queued up right now, getting ready to hit play. I think, George, between Dan Hardy and our Mike Pyle interview, there are two of our best interviews we've done so far. Dan and I go way back, and he really opened up to us. He didn't give us any generic responses, kind of all cards on the table, and he opened up about what his thoughts are about his fighting future and what he plans on doing about this disease. So it was a really good interview. Are you ready to play it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right, George, we're going to go on silence while we play this Dan Hardy interview. Everybody else listening, enjoy. So there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, you've been making the media rounds lately, but for our listeners and our viewers and readers and everything on bjpen.com, walk us through like the last week and a half of your life. What's been going
on? From which point? From the finding out the fight was off, or?
Yeah, from finding out that you've been diagnosed with this Wolff-Parkinson syndrome, and walk us through that.
Well, I just went into the appointment with the cardiologist I was expecting obviously to get cleared for the fight, and he told me that he couldn't clear me. So then, I spoke to the UFC, and obviously it was announced that I'd been pulled from the fight, and it's just kind of all been up in the air since then. I'm hanging out, I'm training, I'm feeling good, I'm healthy, but as far as what comes next, I don't really know yet.
How surprised were you to find out that you're having to deal with this issue now?
Well, I've been fighting for years and years, and I've never had any symptoms or anything. So it was, if I had not been fighting in California, I would have never found out. It was just one of those things, it was completely unexpected.
Okay. Now, I read recently that you said that the UFC actually pulled you out from the fight, not the California State Athletic Commission. Is that true? And how did you find that out? How did you unravel all that?
Yeah, I actually read that. Obviously, somebody that I'd done an interview with had spoken to the California State Athletic Commission, and it seems that the UFC submitted my medicals, but not the EKG. They were waiting to do the stress tests and get the confirmation from the cardiologist, I guess. So, whether they'd have put me forward or not, it would have made no difference, because I'm sure the answer would have come back the same anyway.
Okay. Now, you and I hung out just maybe like a month ago in Anaheim, right? And we did this long interview, and we talked about a lot of things. One of the things we talked about was that this was probably going to be the last year of your fighting career. It seems like a decision that you were more than confident in making and more than comfortable in proclaiming. Where does this new development push your thoughts on the eventual retirement?
Well, I guess it just kind of expedites it, to be honest, because I knew that my fighting career was going to come to an end at some point, and I've already started making plans for that, and it just kind of started to become obvious that I was ready for this chapter to end and the next one to begin. But I wanted to spend another 12, 18 months fighting and just kind of finish up my career and tick a few boxes that had things I've not done yet. And but then here we go, curveball from the universe, and I guess I've got to start looking into the next phase sooner than I expected.
What happens now, though? Do you pursue trying to get licensed in another state? Have you talked to the UFC, or are you looking at the road to retirement right now? Have we seen the last of Dan Hardy in the cage?
Well, my understanding of the situation is because now it's public knowledge that I have Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome or pattern or whatever you want to call it. The UFC are now aware, and I guess I'm a liability, obviously, on the company and on the sport. So that would probably be across the board, I would assume. I wouldn't think that I'd be able to get a license in another state with them knowing that I have this. So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if it means, which is looking like it means that if I want to continue fighting, then I'm going to have the surgery to have it corrected. Then, I'm not that interested. I've never had any symptoms, and I feel perfectly fine. And the physical health I'm in at the moment is surpasses anywhere I've ever been before in my life. So the idea of letting somebody go in and start sending electrical currents through my heart to try and burn out some cells, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's just not worth my while,
Man, that's so crazy to hear.
Dan, you've had 35 or so professional fights. Was this the first time you've done medicals in California?
Yes. Yeah, I've never fought in California before.
So I guess after you found this out, were you able to go to your own doctor to who verified their diagnosis?
Well, I have got the option of going back to the UK, and obviously we have free healthcare over there, so I could go over there and get checked out, or the UFC have offered to send me out to California for some more tests. So there are options, but they are just our options. They might not be the right options for me. I don't know. I'm just kind of as soon as I heard that I wasn't going to be cleared, I immediately started to move past it, I think. And now I'm at a stage where it's not even a factor anymore. I'm kind of already thinking of what comes next.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because despite what a lot of people were talking about when you were on a 4-fight skid, you're on a 2-fight win streak right now, and I couldn't imagine that you were ready to. You're about to fight in another professional fight coming up, and I can't imagine you're ready to exit just like that. Coming, after you just got your momentum back, 2 wins in a row, and I can only imagine you're looking to string together your next one and continue on your quest. Were you looking for another title shot? Like, what were you looking for? With this 2-fight win streak going into this fight that got or this fight that is no longer happening.
Well, that was basically my plan. I'd got 2 fights under my belt, and my plan was to get another 3 wins this year, and then look at setting up either a title shot or a number 1 contender shot, at the beginning of the following year. So I was planning on 18 months tops, and I was going to give it everything for one last push and then call it a day. And I am disappointed that there is the potential that I can't go out on my terms, but I don't know. If there was ever an option come back and have a couple of fights, have a fight in London or something like that, then I'd definitely be open to it, but not if it meant I had to have any kind of surgery that I didn't feel was necessary.
What is it about the Dan that you're totally against? I know in my experience with working for BJ as long as I have, he, despite...
Sorry, mate, I can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me? Are you there? Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you very well. I can now, yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Just speak up a little bit.
Okay. My question is this: what is it why are you so opposed to the surgery? Because, and in my experience, I kind of understand the mindset a little bit with BJ. He hates surgery no matter what happens. He never wants to go under the knife. But if it meant that you could fight again and it was something that was easily done, why is it not worth the shot to you?
Because they haven't said that it can be fixed. The explanation that they gave me was that they wanted to treat it, they wanted to study it. So that would mean putting a tube or whatever up the artery on the inside of my legs and one in my neck, and going into my heart and trying to find where the second electrical impulse is coming from. And if it's in a safe enough place, they can burn it out. But if it's too close to my regular heart rate, they can't touch it. So, it's not a sure thing. And second of all, I'm perfectly fine. I've had this since birth, and I've never had any issues. And 1 in every 1,000 people have got it. So most people live their whole life and don't even know they've got it. It's I think it raises my chance of cardiac arrest by like 0.6%. It just doesn't seem worthwhile to me to put myself in a situation where I've got somebody going in and messing with my heart when I really don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's working perfectly fine. It always has.
Do you think that there needs to be a closer look at the rule that's not allowing you to compete, so where they can maybe alter it for somebody in your circumstance?
Well, I'm kind of in two minds about this because obviously, from a selfish point of view, yeah, I would love them to be able to look at my fight history and my health, my record of health. I mean, I've never had anything wrong with me, and it's clear that I'm perfectly fine and healthy and well enough to compete. I've been doing it for years. But on the flip side, I see from their point of view, because not only have they got to protect the company, because it would take a huge hit if something happened, but also the sport. The last thing that we need is something bad happening on the biggest stage in the sport. And I'm not necessarily saying that would be me, but if we didn't have these things in place, then it could happen down the line. Someone could slip through, and So there are lots of factors to think about.
Is there anything with that you know of, with anyone that has this condition that somebody, you're a high-level athlete, you've fought, the best in the world, you've fought 5-round fights with the champion, you've been in a lot of battles, and you're very well tested, as far as your endurance goes. Is there anything that can kind of trigger this, that they can point to and say, listen, if this happens, you're going to go into cardiac arrest? Is there anything like that? Because obviously it's not indicative to you in all your training and all your fighting. Nobody would have ever realized that. I mean, your endurance is up there with the best of them. You fought, like I said, 5-round fights, no problem. So, is there anything that can trigger, or that can trigger this they told you about, or that you know of?
Well, the way it was explained to me, and the reason that I was doing the stress test, and basically the stress test is it's a treadmill, and I've got all kinds of stuff stuck to my chest and my side, my rib cage and stuff, and they monitor you. It starts off at a slow walking pace, and then it increases, and the incline increases as well. So it starts off at a slow walk, and then it goes up to an uphill sprint. And what they were hoping to see with that was that my my main heart rate would increase with the stress of the exercise, and the secondary heart rate wouldn't really increase much, which would mean that it's not particularly strong. But when my main heart rate peaked at 192 at 18 minutes at the end of the exercise test, my secondary heart rate was at 171, which means that it's quite a strong beat. And the danger is that the second heartbeat doesn't have a limit. Like the main heartbeat stops at, I think it maxes out at like 220 beats a minute, and after that it's cardiac arrest. Whereas the other one doesn't have a limit; it can go anywhere up to 350 beats a minute, and that's when obviously there's a danger of cardiac arrest. And people that have WPW, from what I've been reading and from people I've spoken to, people that know they've got it suffer, increased heart rate, palpitations, dizziness, fainting, panic attacks, all these kind of things. And they're the people that, obviously, for them it makes sense to get the treatment because, they're having problems. It's causing them problems. But for me, it's not, and it never has.
Wow.
So it's never. You've actually, if you would have not gotten this test, would you have any indication that there was anything wrong?
No, not at all. Not at all. So if the fight was in a different state, the fight would still be on.
So they don't do this test anywhere but in California? Because you fought everywhere. You fought overseas. Yeah.
Yeah, I've fought. I fought in Florida, and they did an EKG on me there because it showed up that I had an abnormal heartbeat, but that was right after the weigh-in, and so they claimed me to fight, and I fought anyway. And I fought in Ohio and Wisconsin, and Washington. I've fought in loads of places, and I've never had any of these tests, the EKG before.
So really they're, with 1 in 1,000 and a roster that's 300 plus, the UFC roster, say, there is actually a good chance that you're not the only one. You're not the only fighter that may have this. So,
oh no, probably not. No.
Have you talked to any other fighters or boxers or anybody from any other martial art that's dealt with this problem and kind of still had a prosperous career, never had any issues through any of their fights?
No, I'm not that I've spoken to. I know that they are out there. Obviously, with the volume of Olympic athletes that are competing around the world, there are a lot of testing. There's a lot of testing going on, within the Olympic Committee. So, any athletes in the Olympics that have got WPW would have shown up and had it treated. So it is something that is that is common and treatable. I mean, if this circumstance had arisen, back in 2009 when I was a couple of fights into my UFC career, then I might be thinking, well, this is what it means to be able to continue my career, and it's worthwhile. But as it is right now, it just doesn't seem. There's just no point in it.
Do you have the kind of go ahead, Major.
All right. I want to know, okay, it seems to me like you pretty much accepted the fact that you may not fight again, and you seem to be somewhat at peace with that from our talk. I want to know what happens next. If you choose not to fight again, if the circumstances come that you can never fight again professionally in the UFC, what does Dan Hardy do now?
Oh, lots of things. I want to study again. I want to study philosophy. There are a lot of places I need to travel to, and a lot of writing I need to be doing while I'm traveling. And I'm also on a quest for strength and flexibility at the moment. So I'm still training twice a day, but my focus has now shifted to Bikram yoga and kettlebells and trail running and these kind of things. So I have direction. I feel great, and I'm moving forward, and I'm excited. I don't know in what way this is going to manifest, but I'm already moving in that direction. So something will happen.
Interesting. So you're obviously going to stay in martial arts. Is there any passion or ambition to maybe coach or train future fighters?
Oh yeah, I'm going to be around the gym, and I'll be helping guys out when they need me. I'm going to be going out to California to help Mike Danzig out for his next fight as well. So I'm still going to be very much in and around the sport, and I'll still be training and stuff, and you'll still be seeing me at events and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've got big things I'm going to be doing. I've got lots of ideas, and I'm just full of life at the moment. I'm full of energy, and lots of good things are going to come from this.
Okay, excellent. Now, I don't want this to be like the Dan Hardy obituaries, your career's obituary interview, but I want to know, what has your UFC and fighting career meant to you thus far? If you should never, return to the cage, are you happy with what you've accomplished, and what are your defining career moments?
I don't know. There's a lot of questions there.
Sorry.
Well, I am happy. I can't be anything but happy. It's if my last fight has been had, everything's been awesome. I wouldn't change any of it. The losing streak was one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life, and I've grown so much from it. And through martial arts and through competition and being in the gym and sharing knowledge with other martial artists, I've grown. And the place I'm at right now is all due to that. So I'm happy with it all. I was on a billboard in Times Square. I had a prime time show that was awesome. I've got magazine covers and all kinds of stuff. It's awesome. But I love it all, and it's not done. It's only going to get bigger from this point on. I guarantee it.
Okay, and this far, what has been the best moment as a fighter for you?
Oh, the best moment. I don't know. That's a tough one. Every one of my UFC fights has been a highlight in some way. Getting the title shot, winning that fight against Mike Swick at 105. That was a pretty big one because first British fighter to get a title shot, and I kind of won 4 fights, and I was fighting for the belt straight away. It was pretty surreal, kind of threw me into the deep end. But that was awesome. And obviously all the stuff that came after that, what with the title fight, it's just a good period in my life. Really enjoy it.
You just brought up the losing streak where you had dropped 4 in a row. After which fight? Was it after the last loss that you went and had the ayahuasca experience, or was it before that?
Strangely enough, the ayahuasca trip was the week after the Ludwig fight. So I'd had it was 2 years I didn't want to fight. It was 4 fights, 2 years. It was just an endless nightmare. I didn't want to be in the gym. I didn't want to hear about MMA. I just wanted the losing streak to be over, and I wasn't prepared to go out like that. I didn't want to not to use cheesy lyrics to quote, but I just didn't want it to end like that. I wanted to go out on my terms, and I still haven't, but I've gone out on better terms than I did. The losing streak forced me to ask questions about my future. The losing streak forced me to think about what comes next after fighting, because I was still going into the title fight, I was still very immature in my head with my view of the world. I was thinking everything was going to be fine with this, and I was going to make a bunch of money, and we're going to win the belt, and everything was going to be good. And then all of a sudden, that became possible that was going to slip away, and I was going to be out of a job and have to find something else to do. So that was a very very self-reflective period for me.
How was that? Explain. How was that? How did that give you a different outlook for your, as far as your mixed martial arts career and your life in general, having an ayahuasca trip? Because I've heard a lot of different things, and most people that I've ever spoken with have compared it to some sort of religious experience where their eyes were opened up when it was over. Was it kind of the same thing for you?
Yeah, it was. It was. It was a really strange week because, one Saturday night I'm fighting at the MGM, fighting during Ludwig, and then the next week I'm in a wooden hut in the jungle drinking ayahuasca. It was just a roller coaster of a week. So I was in a really, really good, real positive place when I went out there, because obviously I just ended the losing streak, and it kind of felt like, I had options again all of a sudden. And that really, obviously the ayahuasca is a very powerful thing, but that really gave me a lot of clarity on, what comes after fighting and what to look for, in the remainder of my career as well, which, still may not be over.
And so as you're having this experience, you're drinking this ayahuasca. I think you drink it, right? You're drinking this,
yeah.
And at what point do you feel like, oh shit, this is something very, very different than anything I've ever experienced? At what point after you're sitting there in that hut and you've drank the ayahuasca, are you thinking that?
Well, the first ceremony was pretty intense, because I literally had no idea what to expect. I'd read a lot of other people's accounts, but it can be very different for every person. So it was kind of funny, because I was sat the room I was sitting in was circular, and I was sat to the left of the shaman, who had a table with the ayahuasca on it, and he went to the right. So everybody in the room to the right of him got served before me. So then, within the next 45 minutes to an hour, you could kind of see it moving around the room as it started to kick in, and some people started to cry, some people started to throw up, and then there was all kinds of weird noises, and some people were giggling, some were dancing. So it's kind of weird as it made its way around to me. I was quite anxious because I didn't know how it was going to take me, and it was just it was like I could hear lots of popping sounds and cracking and fizzing around my head, and then all of a sudden my eyes got very heavy and I started sweating, and your eyes start running, you start feeling very nauseous, and that's when the throwing up starts, the fun stuff, the purge.
So that's an actual part of that experience. Everybody throws up, huh?
Pretty much. I have heard about people that don't, but yeah, pretty much everybody throws up. Unfortunately, within the 3 years that I spent during my teens, where I was going to a lot of hardcore shows and drinking a lot, I learned how to throw up really well. So fortunately, that period of the evening is quite small for me. Usually, I can just kind of get it done and then it's game on. Whereas other people, they spend most of the evening throwing up and feeling really, really, really shitty.
So how long did you spend there? Were you in Peru?
Yeah, I was just there for 2 weeks. I went out there, and the first day we do, because there's a special diet that you have to be on for the ayahuasca diet, which is no salt, spices, sugar, no oils, so just very bland food, a vegan diet as well, so no animal products at all. And then the first day at the retreat, they do a tobacco ceremony where they mix tobacco leaves, or mapacho as they call it in Peru, and coffee, and they mix it up into this brew, and it's really, really thick and strong, and they put loads of sugar in it to try and mask the taste of it, and then you just drink a full cup of it, and it's like drinking 6 Starbucks and smoking 2 packets of cigarettes all at once. It's like your body goes into shock. You start to sweat, and people who have had a bad diet were throwing up and sweating a lot. Fortunately, because I've been in training camp, my diet just stayed clean. I didn't go off my diet, so I was fine. I didn't actually throw up, but other people were pretty rough. And then after that, it was ayahuasca every other night for 3 nights, and then San Pedro for the next 2 days. So it was a pretty intense 2 weeks.
So you when that 2 weeks was over, you left. You felt very clear-headed. You're flying home. You're flying back, and you're sitting there on the flight, digressing everything that went down the last 2 weeks. What are you thinking? Like as you're flying home, and you're just wrapping your head around all the crazy shit that you just went through for the last 2 weeks. What are you thinking? How are you quantifying everything that just went down? Because it sounds like a very intense experience.
Yeah, it was odd. I mean, fortunately, I had a 25-hour plane journey to round trip back to Vegas. So I had enough time to contemplate and think it through. But the main dilemma was, how do you explain it to somebody without them looking at you like you've lost your mind? That was a genuine concern of mine. Like, I'm gonna come home, and my family are gonna ask me questions about it, and how do you explain psychedelics to someone that's never had psychedelics? There's no language there for it. It's a very abstract dimension, and my concern is talking too much about it makes me sound like a crazy person. Apart from the other people that have had ayahuasca, and then they're like, aha, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So that was really my main concern, because I mean, it just blew my mind open. It just expanded my way of thinking, my view of the world. Changed me for life.
Did that experience, Dan, help you cope with what's ahead now in your career?
Yeah, definitely. The one thing I got out of the first ceremony was just to have confidence that everything's going to work out all right. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about things too much. I've never been a particularly uptight kind of person anyway. I've never been chasing the money or anything like that. And I've just got to continue to be like this. I will find my way through life and have the experiences that I'm supposed to have. And that's what was really the overwhelming feeling, that everything is just going to work out okay. And just have faith and keep pushing forward.
Sounds like a good outcome.
Would you ever do it again?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely doing it again, like possibly within the next few weeks.
Within the next few weeks? I had listened to Joe Rogan talking about it, and he was saying how the shamans were saying that they recommend that you trip or at least eat mushrooms once every 3 months. I don't remember exactly the reasoning behind it, why, but I guess to keep your mind open. Is that so? You'd go back in a few weeks to do it. Do you kind of agree with that? That mushrooms and ayahuasca, and it's not. I've heard that quite a few times from many different people, and you're right. It's not a lot. It's not something that somebody who's never experienced it would understand. So. After experiencing it on so many different levels, so you kind of agree. You kind of agree with their philosophy with a lot of these things. Well,
I've been thinking about this quite a lot, and if you'd have asked me the week after I got back from Peru, I would have said, yes, everybody should do this. It will change everybody's life and it will improve the world. Now, as I've kind of had time to think it over and had experience with other psychedelics as far as psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and dimethyltryptamine, and there are a few others as well. But they do play a very important role in our species' growth, our evolution, and we've become very disconnected from that over the years. And if you look back to any ancient cultures, a lot of them had a shamanistic presence in their culture, and teacher plants, whatever they would be, from peyote in North America to iboga in Africa. It's all around the world that people have used the plants and learned from these experiences, and we've just become disconnected from it. And the problem is that we've become so far disconnected that some people will not be ready in this lifetime to take on that kind of experience. And I don't mean to judge anybody, but I was walking through one of the casinos the other night, and I'm just looking at the people sitting on the slot machines, cigarette and a beer, and they're like, probably 10 or 15 years from death. It's too late for those people, So I wouldn't say no, it's for everybody, because for those people it would just be far too much. They need to get somewhere physically and mentally without the medicine before they introduce the medicine.
I see. So you kind of have to have yourself together a little bit and kind of recognize some of these things before you would recommend diving into it, and especially for somebody who is older, like you were saying.
There's definitely a process of preparation that leads up to this thing. Fortunately, and it's just I guess it's just convenient that it worked out this way. But generally, the way you find out about these experiences, whether it's ayahuasca or DMT or whatever, it's through people that are on a walking a path of health already. They're physically well, their diet's clean, they don't overindulge in anything, and generally they're very knowledgeable as well. So there is a lifestyle that comes with it. I just couldn't grab somebody off the strip right now and go, here, have these magic mushrooms and let's see what happens, because it could be dangerous. They could have a really bad experience. It could really hurt them. So the process of kind of cleansing the body and cleaning yourself and feeding yourself and keeping your body well and healthy, they're the first steps before you can even think about taking on something as powerful as a psychedelic.
I got you. Go ahead, Pedro. I wasn't trying to cut you off earlier.
You're fine. I find this whole discussion very interesting. I never even heard of ayahuasca until you guys started talking about it right now, so it kind of just opened my eyes to a whole new thing. Obviously, I've heard about stuff like mushrooms and acid and LSD and all these other type of psychedelic substances. But the ayahuasca experience is something new to me entirely. So, thank you guys.
I don't think a lot of people in this country know about it. I think he's few and far between as far as the people I know that have actually gone and had that experience. Because I don't, Dan, as far as can you do that ayahuasca experience anywhere but outside of the country? You can't, can you?
What do you mean? Do people have access to it outside of Peru?
Ayahuasca, if you went down to Peru and you were with the shamans and they don't do it. That type of ritual, like the rituals they do there, they don't ever. Do they happen here? I mean, I'm sure somebody in their grandfather's cabinet probably has a stash of ayahuasca somewhere, but I don't. But they don't do the ceremonies like that. You typically people go out of the country to experience the whole thing from A to Z, the entire process.
Not necessarily. No, there is. There's increasing access to it in all over the world. There are traveling shamans now that are taking the knowledge to all different areas of the world. To me, it just seemed logical, and it always is for me. If I want to do kung fu, I go to China, and if I want to learn wrestling, I come to America, and if I want to have a traditionally Peruvian psychedelic experience, the obvious thing to do is go to Peru. But you don't have to leave the country, not at all. No, there's a whole psychedelic movement that's growing and gathering momentum, and these things are going to be much more accessible in the future, I believe.
It's really interesting. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Pedro. Like I said, not to veer off the conversation too much, but I just wanted to ask him a couple of things about that because, like I said, he's, it's a very interesting experience, and not a lot of the listeners or readers will, you know, a lot of them never get to understand that, and so it's kind of an interesting. The way he's presenting it, the way as he explains his story, is very different and unique, and it's kind of, you know, for somebody who's never heard it before, it's, you know, you might be helping somebody out, Dan. Somebody might go have this experience because of you, and you may open some doors. So it's good. It's good to let people understand.
This is how the word is spread.
It kind of adds to that. It kind of adds to that, like, Dan Hardy mystery type of persona that I feel that you have, Dan. I think that really came out for me when, like what you just touched on, you went to China with the monks, you studied Kung Fu earlier in your career, you know, you kind of really take on the spiritual side of a lot of things you do, and I find that extremely fascinating.
Well, thank you. Just doing myself. Just doing what I can.
All right. Let's wrap this up, George, with Dan. He's been real gracious with our time. I have one final question for him. If you have a final question for him, shoot it off before I give mine.
No, I think my real question was he dug deep with the ayahuasca experience and how it all tied together with everything. Was, you know, it's really interesting how that happened. You know, after the Ludwig fight, and now all of this happened. You know, all of these new developments happen with your heart and things like that. And it seems like right when you have all this momentum going, it's like the rug is getting pulled out from you again. So it was kind of, like I said, it was good to kind of you know, see the parallels between and how everything kind of played out and to where you're at right now. Yeah. So if you have a final question, go ahead, Alex.
Let Dan talk. What were you going to say, Dan?
It's just kind of an odd circumstance because I've been, I spent a couple of days really spending a lot of time thinking about it and trying to figure out, you know, why this had happened and what was going to come of it, and I was speaking to somebody, a friend of mine, and they said something that did never occur to me before. And it makes perfect sense. If this hadn't have happened, this is an opportunity now to do something else. If this hadn't have happened, I may never have had the courage to pull myself away from the sport. You know, like realistically, I could have just been that guy that just fights and fights and fights. And I don't want to be that guy. But the problem is, mixed martial arts now, as strange as this is going to seem, mixed martial arts is my comfort zone. Fighting is my comfort zone. I know how to do it. It's, you know, I know the process. It's regular for me now. It's something that it's almost instinctual. So the idea of putting myself away from that and throwing myself into a completely different direction and doing something new, you know, it's terrifying. So I'll be honest, I might not have ever had the courage to actually just call it a day and do it. I mean, I put it out there in those interviews, but who knows, man? I might have just carried on fighting for another 10 years.
Right.
So it's a situation like this that has, you know, thrown me in a different direction, which is probably what I needed.
Well, you know, they say everything happens for a reason, right? And that's a philosophy that I always live by. It helps me get through the bad times and helps me appreciate the better times more, you know? So,
yep.
That's the way it goes. Dan.
Couldn't be more true.
Yeah. Dan, final question for you, man. And I want to thank you for your time. And I just want to say before I ask this question that I hope we get to see you in the cage again. And I hope that whatever happens for you in the future is what's best for you. But I would really love to see you fight again, as I'm sure all your fans would. But in the event...
Well, thank you.
Yeah. In the event, and here's my question, in the event that you aren't able to compete, how do you want the fans to remember Dan Hardy, the fighter?
Oh, how do I want to be remembered as a fighter? I don't really want to be remembered as a fighter, to be honest. I'll be remembered however people remember me. I'll be the guy that...
Whoa, George, are you with me?
Yeah.
All right, that Dan Hardy interview, we had to cut it a little bit short right there. Dan's last question, actually, you know, you were on the line. he got disconnected from us at the very last minute. So that was it, though. But that was 42 amazing minutes of Mr. Dan Hardy.
And that was the whole thing. And really, I'm not even sure we truly scratched the surface of all of that stuff with the whole ayahuasca. He spent 2 weeks there. 2 weeks. It wasn't like he drank this shit one night, woke up the next day and was like, damn, that was cool. It wasn't like, going out to the club and getting wasted and, reminiscing about it the next day. He spent 2 weeks, and it was like, I guess that's like it's done in sessions. So that must have been, we talked to him for 42 minutes, and we probably dove into 15 minutes of what was days of stuff.
Yeah. In that interview, Dan and I've known him for a while now. And, when I lived out in the valley, in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles, that's where I grew up and everything. And when I lived out there, Dan lived out there too. And we became like lunch buddies. Like him and I would have lunch together back when he was making his way up into the UFC in the time when he fought George St. Pierre and all that. So I have this fondness for that dude. And to hear that his career might be over forcibly because of this medical condition, it was kind of sad for me, man. Like there's not too many fighters that I hold a bias towards. BJ's one of them. There's a few others, but Dan Hardy's also one of them. And it just sucks to hear that he can't go out on his own terms. But it's refreshing to know that at least he's at peace with that,
He doesn't. That was one of the interesting things, actually. And you brought that up, was that he really is like at peace with I guess from what he said, he was at peace with this decision, before it even happened. Because he kind of already assumed that it might be his last year, so mentally he was already kind of checked in to deal with the situation or a situation like this. It just sucks that he's doing it, riding a 2-fight win streak. But on that token, if he doesn't end up fighting again, he went out with 2 wins in a row in the biggest, best organization, So, I mean, really, it's not like he went out on a loss. He didn't go out on 4, he didn't lose 4 in a row and then say, can you imagine if he lost the 4 in a row and then they told him that? Then he's going out on 4 in a row. He proved that he could still win inside there. He went, he won 2 fights, was getting ready to see if he could put his third together, who knows? So, if he can't fight again, it'll be a shame because he's really fun to watch, and he's extremely entertaining, super cool guy. But if he doesn't end up fighting again, he went out with 2 wins, and you can't ask for more than that.
What I remember about this guy more than anything is how much trash he used to talk. Like before his lead up to the GSP fight, this guy was like the Chael Sonnen of the UFC back then. Do you remember?
Yeah, he was. He was he was extremely outspoken. He used to not only just interviews, but he would do some crazy videos with the whole spandex when he came out with the wearing the wrestling
singlet, yeah.
The singlet, yeah, wearing the singlet, like that was some good shit. Dan he's an extremely entertaining fighter. He goes for it, and you got to respect that, And in retrospect, when I think about it, his fight with GSP was a lot more competitive than a lot of other guys have had. He should get a little bit of credit. I think the 4 losses in a row, people kind of forgot, and he kind of stepped away for a little bit. But he really is a tough guy. He's a tough fighter, and he goes for it. So it's if we can't see him compete again, it's a crying shame. But I'm glad if he doesn't ever compete again, I'm glad he went out on 2 wins.
Yep. We have a caller, George. You want to take this call real quick, see what this guy has to say?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. I don't know who you are, but we have somebody from the 646 area code calling us right now. Mr. 646, what's up?
Mo. It's me again.
Mo, you called me from 359 last time. I'm getting confused here with the area codes.
Is it changing?
It's changing. But that's okay. What's up, man? What did you think of that Dan Hardy interview, brother?
Oh, I think that was probably one of the best interviews I've ever heard.
Thank you. I thought so too. And I try not to be biased for George and myself, but Dan, it seems anytime I interview Dan Hardy, he really opens up because him and I have a friendship that surpassed like this interview media thing, So he really kind of opened up to us, and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I heard that. I was really into the interview. I was like, man, that's Dan Hardy speaking? Because he has that bad boy image, so it's kind of confused. If you just watch all the trash talking and stuff, and you hear this interview, you're going to be like, man, that's impossible. It's not Dan Hardy speaking. It's another person.
Right? Exactly. He was really honest.
Yeah, he was really opening up. So that was really cool. And I got to agree with what George said. He went out on a win streak, so that's pretty cool.
It is. At least he has that, Hopefully we get to see him back. Hopefully the UFC will work with him and put him in an athletic commission, even if it's overseas, that will allow him to fight with his condition. But if not, you can't look past the Dan Hardy legacy and what he brought to the table when he fought. This guy brought it every single time he stepped into the cage.
So. I'm just a bit confused about the whole thing because if California is pretty much the only state that does that, then what about all the other guys who haven't fought in California and haven't gotten an EKG to test for that? Like, if you're going to say he can't fight, well then don't you pretty much have to check everyone else out and make sure? Because it's, or you pretty much have to do what you say and kind of let them fight, in a commission that doesn't check for that. I don't really know. It's like it's a weird thing because, like you're saying, are they saying we're not going to let you fight, or is it we're pulling you from this card? I guess I should have clarified that with him, but I'm a bit confused about that.
Well, what Dan said was that since it's in his investigation and his research of the situation, because now that it's public knowledge that he has this condition, that the other athletic commissions in the United States and the UFC, when they sanction their own events, they're all going to be held liable if they license him to fight. So his really only options, like he said, he would take a fight in London, or he goes and he gets the corrective surgery, and then he gets a clean bill of health from physicians, But outside of that, if one of those two things don't occur, then this guy's fighting career is over, and that's a real shame,
But he doesn't. But hold on, they don't even. The UFC does their own gig when they go overseas, right? They don't even. So it's not even like he can go check himself into like another commission, can he? Because
he can't. No, the UFC would have to allow him to fight.
Yeah, if it's overseas, the UFC is going to say you can't fight. You can't. It's not, because Ratner is going to oversee all of that.
But the UFC has a liability then. You know what I mean? Because
right.
What happens if, God forbid, what happens if Dan Hardy has a heart attack in the cage?
No, I agree. I just, like I said, I guess the public knowledge part, I guess that is what I guess that's the piece that I was missing there. But, yeah, it's going to be a shame if he can't fight again. And again, I don't know enough about the condition to really comment and say like, oh, this, he's not comfortable having whatever corrective surgery that they do. I guess mainly because they're not even for sure it's going to fix it if they go in there and do it. And it's
right.
So I don't.
And the way Dan Hardy's thought process is, I've been on the covers of magazines. I've had my own primetime special. I fought for the title. I'm the first British fighter to ever do that. In his mind, he's already accomplished everything he set out to do outside of winning a UFC title, but he's not willing to go for the surgery, have all that invasion done on his body to try to see if he can continue on. To him, that's not worth it. And, you got to respect that decision. Hey, Mo, we got to let you go, brother. I got TJ Grant on the line, okay? So thanks for listening, man, and thanks for calling in again.
Okay. Good night, guys.
All right, good night, brother. George, are you there?
Yep.
That was Mo, man. Mo always putting it down, listening to us.
He's a regular now. He's become one of the regular callers.
He's a regular from France.
He is. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I love the fact that we're worldwide,
Yeah, we had France and Australia. I mean, that's, like I said, that's the cool thing about BJPenn.com is that we are everywhere.
We are. So that was one of our better interviews with Mr. Dan Hardy. I'm going to throw out the gauntlet here. I'm going to challenge TJ Grant to top that. TJ Grant is one of the top lightweights in the world. He just debuted on the top 10 world rankings for the lightweight division in the UFC, and he's on what is it, George? A 4-fight win streak? Am I right there?
4-fight win streak, but you have to remember that the fights before that, were fights at 170 pounds, and if you look at the resume, you'll see that a lot of the guys he fought at 170 pounds are right there knocking on the door of title shots right now. I mean, he went 3 rounds with Johnny Hendricks. We'll get into it, but yeah, it's pretty impressive. The resume is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I agree. And I've worked with TJ in the past, and it's my pleasure and honor to have him on the show today. I think that he doesn't get the press that he rightfully deserves in light of recent events. And Mr. Grant, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. How you doing?
Good, TJ. How's it been, man? How's everything going?
Things are going good here. I got a baby girl on the way. Big fight coming up. Things are going good.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, man.
All right, so
yeah.
Tell us what's going on with you. You made a lot of waves recently in the lightweight division, and with your most recent win over Matt Wyman, you kind of really put a stamp on your dominance at 155 and opened a lot of people's eyes that you're the real deal and you're ready for these contender-type fights. And I want to know, what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, I mean, it's been a slow process, really, just UFC, fighting at 170. I couldn't really be the fighter that I just felt like I was undersized and I couldn't really, showcase what I was all about. And I was really undersized. I wasn't really, running because I didn't want to fight with the big boys. I mean, I fought with the big boys and, they were just too big. So, I made the smartest decision in my career just to go down. And, I've had some tough fights at 155, but it's been good. I'm glad I made the switch. And, I feel like right now, I'm coming into my prime and, looking to make a statement here coming up.
Okay, now you're pegged to fight Gray Maynard at UFC 160. This is a 2-time title challenger. He is at the very elite of your division. And what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm really excited when I found out I was fighting Gray. To get the UFC offered me Jim Miller right after my fight with Matt Wyman, and I had to turn that down just because my baby girl is going to be born this month, and I didn't want to have the two, be at the same time. You know what I mean? Because I got to miss one, I'm going to miss the fight, that's for sure. And I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get like the big fight with a guy like Gray. I didn't know if his name was even on the list. He was the only guy other than Jim Miller that was ahead of me in the rankings, and I'm really happy the UFC, they think highly of me to put me in a fight like this, and I'm just going to go out there and fight him just like everyone else. And I mean, I'm not afraid of the guy. I respect what he's done and him as a fighter, but I mean, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bring war to him.
So 155 is kind of it's kind of log jammed right now. The Ben Henderson, the champ, he's fighting Gilbert, and then on top of that, you've got Pettis fighting Jose Aldo, and if Aldo wins, he's supposed to get a shot at the title.
when you look at the lay of the land, assuming you beat Gray Maynard, where do you think you fall into that picture, and what do you think of the contenders that are all sitting there waiting in line right now?
With Frank Yeager left the 55 division, and Pettis has gone down as well for the title shot. And Aldo will be coming up, so it's up to the UFC. But I'll trade 2 guys going down for 1 guy coming up for sure. It's a good thing, because my goal is to get closer to the title and fight for it. But Gray's right up there. A win over him, I'm not sure where that would put me. Like I said, I'm ready to fight whoever. I'm not afraid of anybody. I got a tough test ahead of me, but I also know it's a business, and selling fights, and I haven't fought on the main card of a pay-per-view yet, so I got to reach the masses. So I'm just looking to make a big statement in this fight. Come out there and let the fans know who I am, and at the same time, I'm going to fight my fight, and just let it all out there.
When you look at Gray Maynard and his skill set, you fought a lot of different guys, and when most people talk about Gray, they talk about he's got power in his hands, and he's an excellent wrestler, Division I wrestler. But your resume is chock full of guys that are just like that. Johnny Hendricks, strong wrestler. Dong Young Kim's an excellent grappler. Evan Dunham is excellent grappler. Do you think that is Gray presenting different challenges to you? You think that you've seen before, because, like I said, you have a lot of experience, 25 fights, more than double the amount of professional fights Gray has.
Yeah, he definitely poses a lot of issues. He's got devastating power, and he is an elite wrestler. He's not just a good wrestler. He's and he's also fought 5-round fights. He's fought the best, and every fighter poses different troubles and different problems, and that's just like training camp. You always prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and we're preparing for the best Gray Maynard, and I'm excited for it. I'm gonna have some new tricks up in my sleeve. Hopefully I get to show, and I'm sure he's going to be a different fighter. He's had a lot of time off, so assuming he's went back and corrected some of his mistakes in his past fights. I'm looking to do the same, but when you get out there, we're going to go out there and we're going to throw down. Hopefully he's willing to mix it up with me, and if we go to the ground, that's great too. I've been on the ground in every single one of my fights pretty much, so I feel comfortable there. And one thing I can say is that I'm not going to be intimidated. You know what I mean? I'm ready to rock, and I'm going to be looking to knock him out or submit him.
Amazing. TJ, in your last fight against Matt Wyman, I've always been a fan of yours, but I've also always been a fan of Matt Wyman's. He was on, my boss's BJ's. He was on his season of The Ultimate Fighter, and I've kind of seen Matt as always one of the most underrated guys in the lightweight division. Just a really good technical fighter, and you really dominated him. And in that fight, while I always knew you were talented, it really opened up my eyes to your potential. And I'm wondering, what did you think of that fight? You finished him in the first round, and you completely dominated it from bell to bell. Was that your real coming out party? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, that fight had the makings of 3 rounds of a grueling fight, whether it be a slugfest or just a battle on the ground scrambling. And I know that Matt. He didn't get to show what he's all about that night. I know that. You can say I fought a great fight, and I did my job. And sometimes when you do that, he didn't get to show. But he's an excellent fighter. I've always been a fan of him myself. My very first fight in the UFC, I remember him and Sam Stout stole the show, and he's had a ton of fights, ton of battles, and I knew that was where his strong point was just getting it into mixing it up. And I took the more technical approach, and I was just trying to, be devastating and be elusive at the same time, frustrate him a bit. And it all worked out. I could sit here and say, that's exactly what we hoped for, and it really was. But, how often does that happen? So, I was fortunate to get the win, and I was really happy, and nothing but respect for Matt Wyman.
Okay. Now, in my experience in watching your career develop since you've entered the UFC, you've always been a real humble guy in wins and in losses. But what do you do to catch the audience's appeal? More so, like you have guys like Chael Sonnen and a Dan Hardy, who we just had on the show, who they're really good at talking, and they pretty much ask for what they want. But as TJ Grant, what's your style? How do you do this to kind of break through?
You know, for me, you know, I'm just myself. Like, I'm not going to be anybody I'm not. I mean, that would, you know, then I'll come off as fake. I mean, be pretty transparent at that point. So I'm just going to be myself. You know, I feel like my fighting style is exciting. You know, I don't like I go out there and I compete, but at the same time, to me, it's a competition, but it's a fight. Like, you know, I'm trying to break that guy, and you know, I'm trying to impose my will, all those things. You know, I'm not going out there to win 3 rounds. I'm going out there to knock him out or submit him. And, you know, if I win 3 rounds, great. But, you know, I hope, you know, just my fighting style alone is going to, you know, that's what I try to bring to the table. I try to be, you know, a fighter, you know, every day of my life. And, you know, if I went out there and trash talked and stuff like that, it's not really my style. So I'm not really going to get into it. But, you know, I'm sure at some point somebody's going to piss me off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, TJ, as a jiu-jitsu guy, I love watching your fights and your highlight reels. It's just full of like ridiculous transitions and submissions, and you're just attacking. Where do you how did you develop this you know, crazy jiu-jitsu game for mixed martial arts? Like, who have you trained with, and how did take us back through you know, because you have your resume is just full of submissions. You've taken a lot of arms home, so just kind of curious about how all that came together in your career.
Well, I started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I was like 15. My older brother got me into it. He boxed pretty high level, and my mom just said, like, you guys got to stop wrestling around in the house, take him to the gym. And I started training, and you know, I wrestled in high school. But it wasn't like after high school I started, you know, just I worked at a pizza shop, and I was training jiu-jitsu as much as I could, and you know, I've done training with a lot of guys, man. You know, me and Scott McLean, like, he started Fit Plus, and you know, I was the first one there, and you know, through that gym, I mean, we've brought in tons of high level grapplers to really, you know, hone our skills. And you know, I've done training, you know, a lot of top guys like Shane Rice, George Grigel, Leo Santos, Fagny, Hobson Moores, our jiu-jitsu instructor. So I've done a lot of training. You know, it's been a long time. But I mean, I feel like I got into the sport in 1999, and I've been a fan since 1994. Ever since I started my jiu-jitsu, I was always thinking, like, okay, this guy might punch me in the face, so I got to be ready for that. Like, I never thought about, I mean, I like jiu-jitsu in the gi. I train it all the time, but I'm always thinking also, like, you know, I got to be ready to fight. And that's always been my goal, and that's always been my approach. So I like no gi as well, but, you know, I do it all, you know, and I've been, you know, I keep a humble approach to my training. I always try to, you know, prepare for the worst, and you know, never get too high with the highs or too low with the lows, you know.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that too, actually, in terms of grappling. Do you train in the gi a lot, or you don't, or is that part of the mixed? Like, do you think that you need to train in the gi for mixed martial arts?
You know what? I think you should. I mean, some guys don't. I don't think you have to, but I think for me, like, I do enjoy the gi. I think it's challenging. It poses a challenge. I'm a martial artist. I train Muay Thai. I train pure Muay Thai. I train pure boxing. I train pure wrestling. Like, I mean, you know, so why not train pure jiu-jitsu in the gi? I split it up, though, you know what I mean? But, you know, I always at least get the gi on once or twice a week, every week. And go ahead. Sorry.
So what do you think about, like, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu world champions that come into mixed martial arts. It's not like while you're an excellent grappler, it's not like you came in here with like a 5-time like ADCC winner. So why is it that a lot of these jiu-jitsu guys
that are like a 4-time world champion, and they just struggle on the ground, whereas your grappling is completely suited for mixed martial arts, where you can just transition from spot to spot, throwing strikes and attacking at the same time.
You know what? That's a good question. Like I said, like I've always envisioned myself fighting. I hate losing. I hate being dominated. It doesn't matter like what it is. So I mean, when I'm on the ground, like, you know, I'm not gonna give him that shot. Like that's if he gets me to the good one, like I'll give him respect because you know he earned it, right? And that's just been my approach. But you know, I feel like I have good coaching. I feel like I said, like you got to be brought down to earth, man. Like sometimes people don't. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not going to point any fingers, but, you know, like some guys, you know, they're really good at grappling and they don't want to hear anybody's opinions on stuff because, I mean, they know it all or whatever. I mean, you got to be able to, you got to always be growing and you got to have, you know, you got to have people around you that you respect their opinions and aren't scared to tell you what's what. And you got to want to get better, man. And that's the way I treat it. I always try to, you know, I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying, you know, at the same time, I'm always trying to win. You know, when I'm out there fighting, you know, I'm not letting that guy get that shot, man. Like, I ain't quitting for nothing, you know what I mean? So that's just my goal, and you know, I can't stop, you know. Some guys, I know them, they train, and, you know, I go at it. Like, when I get in there training, like, it's hard work for me, you know. That's why I got to make sure at times, like, I got to tone it back and take my rest, too, because when I'm in there, it's hard work.
Let me ask you this, though. One last jiu-jitsu question, or one more jiu-jitsu question is, you were bringing up, like, all these different guys, you know, you train with and your coach Hobson Mora. Who is the best guy you've ever rolled with?
Yeah, I'm going to offend people, probably.
When you were done, you were just thinking, damn, that was just ridiculous.
Hobson Mora, yeah. Hobson Mora, then, I mean, I don't want to, like, you know, but, I mean, it's you know, you look we're no now guys, so I mean they're gonna say the same thing. Hobson's the man, you know. I rolled Hobson, he's phenomenal. You know, got all kinds of good guys, man, like Leo and his brother Bagney are top notch. I roll with so many good guys, man. But you know, the king is Hobson, you know. He's little too, man. He's little and he's so wiry and Jesus, he's good, man. He's good.
Excellent. That's amazing. Amazing. All right.
Yeah.
TJ, here's what I want to know. I'm not the grappling aficionado like George is, but here's what I'm really interested in is this fight with Gray Maynard coming up. Now, obviously, you plan on victory. Okay. So after you get your hand raised in this fight, do you ask for special concessions from the UFC to give you like a top 3 guy? I mean, Gray Maynard's already a top 3 guy, right? But do you ask for another one? Do you ask for a title shot? What's your mindset going in to this fight once you get your hand raised?
You know, I bring the same approach I brought to it every time. I mean, I was fortunate to get Gray Maynard, but I feel like, you know, I kept my mouth shut. I got in there. I fought hard, and you know, I did well. So my goal is to go out there and beat Gray Maynard. I'd love to you know, make him say uncle, but you know, I'll take any win I can. And you know what, man? Like, I don't think I'm better than or too good for anybody. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to fight somebody who's going to make me further. You know, if I'm number 3 and this fight gets me to number 3 or number 2 in the world, and you know, they have to have a title fight in between. Well, I want my fight to be, you know, somebody who's going to get me that next title shot. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. I don't care who it is. You know, but if that's not the case, man, I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to fight. You know, I want to fight. I want to fight somebody who's going to come out and you know, let it all hang out there. You know what I mean? We'll put on a good show. But you know, I ain't looking past Gray Maynard at all. He's you know, he's a first class warrior. He's done a lot, and you know, I got my hands full.
Absolutely, I agree. Gray's a tough guy. Since you're moved to light, but you haven't lost a fight, and I know the obvious the obvious answer to this question is going to be yes. But I want to know: are you pleased with your move to lightweight, and are you happy you made the choice to move down?
Yes. Do you want me to elaborate? Yeah,
yes.
When I was fighting at 170, you know, every single time I fought, I'd get on the scale, you know, and then I'd be thinking like, man, this guy's gonna be 190 tomorrow. And I was like a chubby kid, like I was chubby. I was like 182 sometimes when I fought, sometimes less than 180, and fucking fighting in the UFC at 170 pounds against the monsters. Ricardo Almeida really, like, because he was so technically good, it was like he negated my technique, and he was so big. I was damn, like, and then you know, I was glad I made the switch, man. They're so densely muscled at 170, and you know, at 55, I feel like I can just, you know, I can get into scrambles. If a guy takes me down, it's not the end of the world. And you know, that was kind of my Achilles heel early on, is guys just, you know, taking me down and being on top of me. And you know, when you're giving up, you know, 15, 20 pounds of solid muscle in a fight, I mean, it's tough to overcome that. You know, especially when you're fighting at the highest level. And you know, I wouldn't even be open to catch or, you know, going up and down again. I'm staying at 155. It's my home for sure.
Okay, so here's a situation that I kind of am really close to home with. You're obviously on BJPenn.com radio. I work for Mr. BJ Penn. I've worked for him for a little bit over 6 years now, I think. And he's a real kind of stubborn guy. He believes that technique supersedes size and strength, right? And we've seen in his last outings at 170 pounds that it hasn't really gone his way. But I think anybody who's a fan of mixed martial arts or who knows what BJ Penn's about, we know that he's one of the most talented fighters on the planet. In your experience, is the weight class difference so much that the 155, for somebody that's built like you, that's built like BJ, that doesn't give up the size advantage at lightweight, is it really that much of a difference?
Well, I mean, I think it is. You know, BJ's a phenomenal fighter. I've always been a huge fan. I don't think that BJ should have ever left 155, but you know, he went up and he did well at 170, and he won titles, and you know, he accomplished a lot. But I mean, I feel like the sport's just evolved, and now everybody. I mean, you're fighting guys that are not only like they're getting technically better, but they're finding ways within the rules to compete and win. You know, using the cage, using their size, using the time limits, and I'm not knocking that. It's a sport, and that's the way it's going to be. But I feel like, you know, there's weight classes for a reason. You know what I mean? And I feel like, you know, props to him though, man. He went up there, he fought Rory, and he fought all these great fighters and done well. But you know, I really feel like BJ Penn, you know, could be a force still 155. But you know, that's just what I think. You know what I mean?
Just veering off this, but kind of also staying within the same realm. What is your opinion on, you know, well, you know, you have really big guys in weight classes cutting a lot of weight, but there's a lot of guys that are using TRT. Is that a crutch for guys to keep their weight on and keep their size on, and also recover well? You know, and have that advantage going into the cage, or is it, oh, no problem, it's within the confines of the rules, no big deal?
I mean, I don't know. Like, all I know is my personal experience just training. There's not enough days in the week, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to train to be a mixed martial artist, well, you got to cover all the bases. I mean, there's so much to learn, and to be a good grappler and be a good striker and to be a good, you know, well-conditioned athlete, and there's just really not enough time. Your body just can't recover in order to, you know, really drive. You know, that's why you got to, like, I feel like I train as much as I can all year round, because your body can get burnt out really easy. And I think it's unfair, you know, if people do steroids, and that's one thing. Like, I completely am against that 100%. And the TRT, I mean, you know, I don't think I would ever even think about taking it. I mean, you know, it to me, it's just not fair. You know what I mean? Especially guys that have been tested in the past and failed drug tests. I feel like, because I mean, if they say that, you know, that can cause you to have you know, your body stop producing the same amount of testosterone. Well, I mean, that's kind of the repercussions that you almost deserve for using in the past. That's the way I feel about it. You know,
is it along the same? Is it along the same lines of, you know, because the two you hear about, you know, it seems like every other week you're hearing about it is either somebody on TRT or somebody busted for smoking pot,
smoking marijuana. Is there a line between the two, or is it both? There's no room for either.
Well, you know what? I mean, as far as the pot, like, I don't care if people smoke weed. To me, it's like, I'm from Canada. I mean, it's pretty liberal up here. People smoke it, and it's not that big a deal. But it's it doesn't really help you. But I just wonder what people's logic is. Why do you test positive for something that's banned? You know what I mean? Why don't you just not smoke it for like 4 weeks or whatever you got to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you get caught? And how do you get caught 2 or 3? Like Matt Riddle got caught multiple times. He's had like his best performances. He won 2 of his last 3 fights. He got overturned. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you got to use your head a little bit.
So basically, if you're at least gonna do it, you
don't get caught.
Don't get caught.
Yeah, it's weed, man. Like, smoke it and then stop smoking it before your fight, and you're good. Like, some people, like, they test to the point where, like, they must have smoked it the day before or something. Like, I guess, like, some people, I mean, anxiety or something, maybe you smoke it. I guess that's what they got to do, but I don't know. It's not for me.
So,
I mean, I wouldn't smoke the stuff anyways. I just can't. I can't function on it, man. Say no to drugs.
Well, there you go. You heard it right there, ladies and gentlemen, from TJ. If you're gonna smoke it, at least pass the test. Okay. At least pass the fucking test. That's it.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, TJ. We appreciate your time. You have Twitter, Facebook you want to plug before we get you off?
Yeah, at TJ _Grant. At TJ _Grant for Twitter, and just hit me up on Facebook. TJ Grant, man.
All right, guys. You heard it there from TJ. TJ, I appreciate your time. Want to wish you the best of luck with Gray Maynard coming up, and hopefully we can get you back on, right after that, so we can, we can hear the winner's speech. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, man. Let's do it. Give me a buzz, man. I'm down anytime.
All right. Thank you again, TJ. I appreciate it. And you guys follow him on Twitter at TJ Grant.
Thank you, TJ. Thanks for your time, brother.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Later.
TJ Grant, ladies and gentlemen. Man, that's going to be a good fight. Good contrast in styles. There's so many fights I haven't really begun to wrap my head around this specific one, but as we're talking to him, I'm kind of picturing it in my head, and I'm like, man, if Gray takes him down, and there's a good chance that TJ takes him down. I mean, I don't. So.
No, I mean, the grappling range between these two is going to be very interesting. Now, I think what we saw from TJ was some really good technical striking when he fought Matt Wyman, but Gray holds that power. You know what I mean? We've seen him drop Frankie Edgar. We've seen him drop some guys. So that fight's really tough to call.
It is. He does have. Gray has that kind of power that changes the complexion of a fight very quickly. He clips you, and then all of a sudden, the round goes to fucking shit for you. So really quickly. So, it'll be interesting to see, but where I want the fight to happen. I want to see them. I want to see TJ out-grapple him, or I'd like to see some jiu-jitsu transitions. I'm not saying I want I want TJ to 100% to be Gray Maynard, but I'd like to see some exchanges between the two, because Gray is a phenomenal wrestler and grappler. That he's been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time also, and so is TJ. And I think that's where two grapplers, let them grapple. Why do you want to see two grapplers box?
Right.
So that's just my opinion. But all right, either way, it's going to be a fun fight, and we'll see. Coming up.
What I'd like to see from TJ, and what I was hoping to hear from him tonight, was a little bit of like bravado. You know what I mean? Like a little bit of I want the freaking title shot. I want to beat Gray Maynard down, and I want to show that I'm the best fighter in the world. But this guy's so humble, man. We just couldn't get that out of him.
I just don't. I think he's just going to go out there and just keep on winning, and he's just going to force himself into the, into that position where you're going to have to talk about him.
And that's another approach to doing it. You know, you did bring up the Chael Sonnen approach. That's just not his thing. But as we're talking to him and he opens up, you can see that there is a lot of personality there. And I think you just had to give him the platform to do it, to be himself. And I think you will actually see it. I bet his teammates don't think that, you know?
True.
So, but yeah. Anyway, good talking to TJ, and it'll be a fun fight.
It will be a fun fight. I'm really proud of this guy to make it to the top 10. I mean, he's been a grinder since he entered the UFC. You know, he flip-flop wins back and forth. He made the drop to lightweight, and he's beaten everybody in his path. And you know, I remember interviewing him when he was making his UFC debut, and not really knowing much about him. But to see him rise from obscurity into the UFC lightweight top 10, it's been a real pleasure. You know, it's really cool.
Well, you know, he had a lot of tough opponents at 170, and I think that a lot of people forget that. You know, it's MMA is, you hear it all the time. It's about, you know, what have you done for me lately? And with TJ, you know, fought Ricardo Almeida, Johnny Hendricks, Donovan Kim. You know, there's so many guys that he fought at 170 that were, you know, tough. You know, Hendricks and Kim are at the top of the division now.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, losing to those two guys, and it's not like he got blown out and, you know, and beat down for, you know, he got knocked out in the first round. He didn't get blitzed. John Fitch got knocked out in very short work by Johnny Hendricks. You know, Johnny Hendricks knocked out a lot of dudes. You know, that didn't happen to him. You know, he's fought tough guys. So it's going to be a rough night for anybody, because I think he's coming to his own at 155.
He is, definitely. Let's see here, Georgie. Who do we got next on the line? We got Mr. Danny Castillo, Mr. Last Call. He's going to round out appropriately with his moniker being Last Call. He is our last call of the evening. He rounds out a great show tonight with Dan Hardy and TJ Grant. What are your thoughts on Mr. Castillo?
Another 155er that is flying under the radar, you know. And we were talking about this off the air, but I was saying, hey, that fight could happen at some point. You know, the two guys have. The
Grant versus Castillo fight.
Yeah, that fight, you know, it's not it could be on the radar, because, you know, Danny has also ran roughshod in that division. You know, he had one hiccup, you know, in recent memory
against Michael Johnson.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And other than that, he's beaten everybody. He's beat all.
And he was pretty much dominating Michael Johnson in that fight, and I think he had a lapse. He had a momentary hiccup in his game, and he got caught, and that was it. But Castillo's one of these WEC imports who has really done well in the UFC since the fold, and I'm happy to have him on. Danny, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's up, Mr. Castillo? How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Glad to be coming with you guys. You know, I can't complain. You know, I'm happy. Just got done training, and now I'm on the air with you guys.
All right, on. How was training today? Where were you training at? Let me ask you that, because I'm a little bit confused. I know you're a TAM guy. For those who don't know, TAM, Team Alpha Male. But I know you've also been training at Cesar Gracie's with the Diaz brothers and stuff like that. So where did camp in today?
Well, I was in Sacramento with Team Alpha Male. I didn't do a team practice. Since I have some downtime, I'm just working on strengthening all aspects of my game. So I did some gi jiu-jitsu today, and then you know, I worked on my boxing with the boxing instructor, and been working on my southpaw to be more well-rounded. So today was a good day of training. You know, I had fun. I laughed a lot and smiled and had a great time. And you know, that's when fighting and life in general is the best. When when you can take a good attitude into it and smile and have a great time the whole time.
Danny, your last fight, against Paul Sass, I've been wondering, that guy has a crazy jiu-jitsu game, but you also have a solid jiu-jitsu game. Was there something, was there anything about his game when you're going into that fight that you were particularly worried about, that you're like, oh, I haven't seen that before, oh, that's different? Or were you thinking, well, if I can avoid the submissions, I pretty much think I got this guy, and I shouldn't have a problem doing that?
No. I was scared, man. I was worried about his jiu-jitsu, to be honest with you. It's the guy had 3 fight of the submission of the night bonuses, and I don't even have any. I've had 15, 16 fights with Zuffa, and I don't have any. So, going against a jiu-jitsu guy who has great jiu-jitsu, that's really sick and savvy on the ground, not to mention, the guy had just beat Jacob Volkman in the first round with a triangle. When Jacob Volkman's a phenomenal grappler, I had some trouble with him, and he beat me. And also he submitted Michael Johnson with the heel hook in the first round, maybe second round, I don't remember. And those are 2 guys who beat me. So, I was worried and stressed out, but, I'm worried about every fighter I come against. Anytime there's thousands of dollars in jeopardy, then, I'm worried about it. That's all I do is fight for a living. So if you even tell me that I go into a fight and only get half my paycheck, then, you better believe I'm worried about it.
So you've now, you've done very well in that division. You had a minor hiccup with Michael Johnson, but really 4 of your last 5, and that division is stacked. Do you feel like you're flying under the radar a little bit in there? That hey, I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing, and because it's really hard to string together that many victories at 155 pounds in the UFC.
Yeah, but I've felt like that my whole life. I kind of with my MMA career, I kind of just like to train and like to go about my career with a chip on my shoulder. I feel like I don't get enough respect from other fighters. I feel like I don't get enough respect from different publications. I feel like I don't get enough respect from MMA talk shows, your radio hosts in general. If you look at any article on Team Alpha Male, they'll mention Uriah Faber, Chad Mendes, Joseph Benavidez, T.J. Dillashaw, and you don't even see me. And that is kind of frustrating, but it's not frustrating because it's been like that for the last 5 years. It's hard to shine in the camp full of stars, but I felt like I've put in my dues. Again, 15, 16 fights with Zuffa, that's a lot of fights. I'm coming up on 7. This is going to be my 8th fight in the UFC, and I was coming from everyone doubting me, saying that I had no chance in the UFC and I shouldn't even be in the WEC. So I feel like I'm flying under the radar, but I haven't had the most exciting fights, and I know that. And I'm working on being, I wouldn't say a more exciting fighter, because I try to be an exciting fighter, and I got knocked out in the past. So basically I'm trying to win, and I'm trying to do it in a great fashion where some of these publications and people in charge of the rankings would see that the changes I've made in my career.
Danny, now you're using the word exciting a lot in this last quote we just got from you. I have to disagree with you, brother, because I think that you've been pretty exciting in your fights, win or loss. Your grappling exchanges are awesome. The way you slam guys is great. So I think you're being a little too hard on yourself. But the main thing, my next question is this: your camp is comprised.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think, in your personal opinion, I know you're the talk show host and supposed to be asking me questions, but
go for it, brother. Go for it.
In your personal opinion, do you think I'm in the top 25 in the world at 155 pounds? And I won't be mad if You do.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot. Thank you. I think so too. Well, there's a lot of rankings that don't find me there. In fact, there's some rankings that have me not even in the top 30, and that's like, it's just crazy. It's crazy to me because I go down the names of some of these guys, and I'm not going to say guys specifically, but it's just like, come on, man, like, cut me some slack. I come from a great team. Every time I step in the cage, I bring it. Every time you see me in that cage, I'm better than I was the time before. And that's one of the most important things that I like to take pride in. Is every time you see me in the cage, I'm better than I was before. And if I continue to get better than I was before, then I'm in a good place. There's a lot of fighters that get stagnant and don't make the necessary changes. And me, I'm complete opposite. I train year round. I've been training just as hard as now when I don't have a fight than I do when I do have a fight. If that makes sense. If that came out right. I don't know. I'm talking too much. Go ahead. It's your turn.
You're good, brother. Here was my question, man. Like you said, Team Alpha Male, you guys have the Uriah Fabers, the Joseph Benavidez of the world, Chad Mendez. Okay, these are guys that up until recently didn't even have a weight division in the UFC. Okay, now I'm good buddies with guys on your team like Tommy, right, and Justin Buckles. Okay, and Justin, he's a 155er on your team. You're a 155er on your team. Justin got released from the UFC, and I've been up there in downtown Sacramento with you guys, and I know the atmosphere. But as far as high level athletes, you're one of the biggest guys on the team. As far as high level UFC fighter. So is that a detriment that you're training while you're training with high level athletes, top 10 fighters every day? Is it a detriment that you're training with smaller guys?
No, I don't think so. I just finished training and I was 64. So, a lot of the featherweights in our camp, we got a lot of guys. I mean, you may know, but there's a lot of guys that are under the radar to the general UFC fans, but to the matchmakers like Sean Shelby and Joe Silva, there's guys that are on the radar. We got some 45-pounders, Anthony Avila. We've got Andre Fili, and those are guys that aren't household names and are popular to the fans, but some of the guys who are on the underground and pay attention to some of the Palace fights and some of the different organizations know exactly who these guys are. These guys are bigger than me right now, and they're 45-pounders. I don't necessarily think that the weight that I need to train with 185-pound guys to make me a better person. And if I do need that, like I said, I make adjustments in my camp. If I feel like I'm overpowering people and I'm pushing people around, which doesn't happen, unfortunately, because I train with some bad dudes, but I'll take myself 20 minutes to low diet, and I'll get work with Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz, those guys in this camp. There's big guys in that camp, and they help me out as well. So I don't necessarily think that. Like I said, I keep saying excited, but I really am. We finally got a real coach. Dwayne Ludwig's been with us for a couple of months, and he's just awesome, and I feel my confidence growing, and I hate to say it, but I'm excited for this time right now, and I'm excited for my fight to come.
You know what, man? You kind of touched on my next question for you. With Dwayne Ludwig coming into the fold over there at Team Alpha Male, I know you guys have Master Tong still there. And Master Tong, not only is he hilarious and a funny guy, but he's also a very technical Muay Thai coach. How does the dichotomy work between Master Tong and Dwayne Ludwig and the team as a whole, and how does that all work out?
Yeah, well, when everything went down, I was just like, how is Master Tong going to fit in this? Master Tong, there's no way, he's just going to be a second guy and in charge. I just don't see Master Tong doing it. But for some reason or another, they kind of teamed up. Master Tong is there on the side, and he's doing a lot of mitt work. He's mitting us up. He's got some of the best mitts I've ever hit. And, so he's still involved a lot in the day-to-day things going on with Team Alpha Male. But in terms of, You know, there was a language discrepancy. You know, his English wasn't the best, so it was hard to get 100% of him and his technique with his English not being up to par. With Dwayne Ludwig, you know, his first language is English. He's fought MMA before, and he's done very well in MMA. He was in the UFC and, you know, did extremely well in kickboxing, K1, and Muay Thai. So I think that the combination combined is exactly what we needed. You know, we don't lose Master Tong. We still have him around. He's still making us laugh. He's still, you know, making it exciting and fun. And, you know, I think that combination, Master Tong and Dwayne Ludwig, is going to be a dangerous combination. And as you could see, you know, we're 4-0 this year in the UFC since Dwayne has came back. And we got 4 fights coming up in this month. So I'm excited to see that. I think everyone's going to win these next couple fights. We have 4 fights. You know, at the end of this month, I think Team Alpha Male will be 8-0 again in the UFC.
So, you know, Danny, you know, we had TJ Grant, another 155er in the UFC on. We had him on just before you. And, you know, we had asked him, you know, we had asked him, what does he have to do to, you know, to just get that attention? You know, you were talking about how, you know, Uriah, you know, you always hear about Uriah and Joseph Benavidez and TJ. What do you have to do? Because some people go that, you know, Chael Sonnen has his way. Michael Bisping has his way. And, you know, do you have to go the same route? Do you have to go the same route? Is that, you know, do you have to call some people out and give some people some shit to get people to say, hey, yeah, let's see Danny get in there with him. Let's give him the big fights.
Yeah, that's a good question, and you know, it's something I've thought about too, because I feel like I'm just as witty as Chael Sonnen, if not wittier, in different aspects. So it's like, do I go and play the bad guy and joke around and I don't think that he's making a mockery of the sport, and I think that everything he's doing is awesome, and it's great for the sport because it brings more publicity to the sport. But that's just not my style. It's not the person I am. It's not how I was raised. It's from the neighborhood I was from. You just don't go around and calling people out and, you know, acting like that. You just don't do it. And, you know, I'm not going to do it either. I'm just going to continue to fight and, you know, continue to win. Eventually, people are going to take notice. Eventually, I'm going to crack that top 10 as long as I continue to fight well and win.
Is it more important to fight well and win, or just put on exciting fights? Because we've heard both sides of the coin. So what do you think? Where's the line drawn?
At the end of the day, is to fight well, is to win. You know, let's see. Joey Beltran, you know, that he's every single fight I've ever seen that guy in has been exciting, and it's just like, oh man, that guy is so tough. He's really exciting. But at the end of the day, if you're not winning those exciting fights, then it doesn't really matter, because who cares if you have exciting fights if you're 6-6? You know, nobody wants to see that. I just need to keep winning. Let's stay healthy, keep winning, and having a good time while I'm doing it. And, you know, eventually people will take notice.
All right, Danny. I notice, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but as far as I know, you don't have a new fight booked yet, right? You don't have any fights booked currently, do you?
No, nothing. Nothing that's like that I can't even talk about. You know, I wish I could be like, yeah, there's a fight, it's gonna be announced soon, but
you can talk about it. What do you mean? Of course you can talk about it.
No, but
who said you couldn't talk about it? That's bullshit. Well, of course you can talk about it.
The rate that UFC fighters are getting cut, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. I'm not saying anything. I'm just kidding. I get paid to fight, and that's what I do. That's it.
It was worth a shot. All
right. Well, let's go this route. Has the UFC contacted you for a nameless opponent? We won't talk about names. Let's not talk about names right now. But do you have your eyes on somebody? Do you have a goal in mind in the near future?
I don't necessarily have a one fight one fighter that I think that I match up well with, that if I have a win over them, it'll crack me in the top 10. I don't necessarily have a fighter like that I have in mind. But it's so tough to say. The weight class is so deep. It could be a Strike Force import. It could be a new guy. It could be a vet. It's tough to say. I have no idea, and that's what makes it really cool for me, is because the anxiety. As soon as I get, my manager never talks to me ever. I have to call him to know about things. So once I see his name, Lex from the Alley, this is Lex Alchemist Group. Once I see that name on my caller ID, then the anxiety, the thrill, the enjoyment of everything is going to hit me, and it's going to be a great feeling. And then he's going to tell me who it is, and I'm going to call Dwayne, and it's going to be time to work. The good thing about the situation that I'm in, and because of my work ethic, is I'm in great shape right now. I'm training so hard. My weight's low. I'm in great shape. So as soon as I get that fight, as soon as I get that name, all my focus and energy is going to go straight to that fight. It's not going to be cutting weight. It's not going to be getting in shape. All that's already done. I could fight next week. And I had my fingers crossed about someone getting hurt for the San Jose card, because TJ, Chad, and Joe were on it. So I've been ready, and I'm here. If the fight matches up well with me, then I'll be all over it with only 2-3 weeks left. Half of my UFC fights were taken on short notice anyway, so.
Right on. Do you care who it is, Danny? Are you one of these guys who will fight anybody, anytime, any place, or do you have like a level of guy that you want to face and you don't want to go below that?
No. I mean, I'll pretty much fight anybody. There hasn't been a fight that I've turned down. Every single fight that they offered me, I've took. I've never been like, oh, I'm hurt or pulled out or anything. Haven't done any of that. I obviously I wouldn't want to fight someone that I've trained with. I wouldn't want to fight anyone from Cesar Gracie, because I've established a relationship with those guys, and they're really cool. So I'm not one of those guys who'd be like, I'll fight anyone. I don't care. I'll fight my mom. Like, I'm not going to fight my teammate. I'm not. I'm not that kind of guy. If the UFC forces me to do that, that's something different. But I have some friends and some relationships that I've made in this sport that I'd like to keep, and there's 1 million 155-pounders in the UFC. Give me someone else. I'd rather fight someone I don't know.
You're just saying how just to kind of ask one last question about this, but you were saying how you were ready to go right now. You've been training hard. You've been in the gym constantly. You were saying earlier you were at 164 pounds. How easy is it for you to make 55, and is 45 even possible?
Man, I get asked that question a lot, and 45 would be really tough for me to do. I don't really think I could do it. When I was in college, I wrestled 41 my first year in college, but that was like 10 years ago. I'm a lot bigger. I put on a lot more muscle now, and the reason why I'm 164 is because I'm training every day. I'm living a clean lifestyle. I eat clean. I get up and I train every day. I run, I cycle, I swim, I do all that stuff. So that's the reason why my weight's low. It's not because I'm weak. I'm strong right now at this weight. So 45 would be pretty tough. Getting down to 55, when I'm 58, trying to get to 56, those last 2 pounds are really tough on me to make. And, I think 45 would be out the question for me.
Well, just kind of curious the way people are moving up and down weight classes, and I wasn't sure. Frankie Edgar was a very small 55-pounder, down at 45 now, and so you never know. When you said you're running around at 164, and there was not even a fight that we knew about, I was like, oh, maybe possibly make 145, but I guess that's a little bit too out of the reach.
I thought about it a bunch of times, and there's two guys in the top 10 that are at 145s. They're in the top 10. I've beat already, and they've cut down to 55. So it's like kind of like, man, I could probably make it, but I don't want to take the risk in losing strength and losing a bunch of stuff, because right now I feel like I'm a strong 55-pounder, and my strength was, I think, the key to me beating Paul Sass was I was just stronger than him, more athletic than him, and my jiu-jitsu is great. So, me cutting down to 45s might take some strength away from me, and then I'd have to readjust my game. And right now I feel like I'm coming as one with my MMA game as a whole. Oh. Hello?
Hello. Yeah. I'm sorry. The audio cut off for a second. I was just saying, we got to wrap it up, but hopefully we can get you on, and when we find out, your next fight, when you can let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I'm just in a great mood, man. I had a great day, so I'm really talkative, and I'll probably ask more questions you guys ask me, but I love being on, and I look forward to coming on again with you guys and announcing this fight.
Hey, Danny, man, don't apologize for being too talkative, brother. We really appreciate it, man. We have so many interviews where guys don't want to talk, where we ask a question and it's a yes or no answer. You know what I mean? So your personality and your demeanor is well received and well appreciated, brother.
You'd have been bored as fuck, but you could have done another half an hour with us, and we could have gone easily.
Oh man, it's just too bad they don't give away UFC bonuses for that kind of stuff, because then I'd be in the running for it.
Well, we'll definitely get you back on, and we want to hear about the next opponent. So as soon as you find out, we'll hit you up, and we'll definitely get you back on.
Right on, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. A big shout out to my team, Team Alpha Male, and everyone, all my friends and family that are out there, and the people that support me. Thank you guys, and I'm in the gym training my ass off to make you guys proud, and thank you guys for having me on.
Oh, real quick, plug your Twitter and Facebook.
Oh, yeah, my Twitter is LastCall155, and I have a fan page on Facebook as well. I'm also on Instagram. It's the same as Last Call 155. I've been using Instagram a whole lot more than Twitter lately, so you probably either or you'll catch me.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Danny. Tell Justin and Tommy that Pedro said what's up, brother.
For sure I will, man. Appreciate it. You guys take care.
All right. Take care, man.
Last call, Danny Castillo.
And he was our last call, Mr. Matthews.
Yeah. Hey, this was an awesome show, man. Everyone was really cool to talk to everyone. A lot of cool fights coming up, and man, Dan kicked it off, and Dan kicked it off really hard with that 40 plus minutes. But I'll tell you what, TJ and Danny, they didn't disappoint either.
No, they didn't. I think we're finally hitting our stride here, Mr. Matthews. We didn't have any disconnects. Everything seems to be going okay with the broadcast and our guests, and so far so good tonight, huh?
Yeah. We survived another one.
Yeah, we did. What is this? Is this our fifth show, bro? I think it might be our fifth show.
It might be. I'm not counting them anymore. I've actually quit counting them now. They just kind of go.
I mean, our first show, we were kind of like, yeah, we're filling in because the last guys didn't work out,
Now we are the fucking guys now.
Those last guys have a new show called Alchemist Radio, and I'd like to announce to any of our listeners that if you get a chance to listen to it, give them a call and tell them what's up with the BJPen.com radio show, because screw those guys straight up.
Yeah, well, I don't know, whatever. We don't give a fuck about them. It's all good. We do our thing. We had a good show, and that if anybody missed the Dan Hardy interview, you need to go back and listen to it. Yeah, we'll post it up on the website later, probably tonight. If not tonight, then first thing tomorrow we'll have the Dan Hardy archive up. We'll have the TJ Grant archive up, and we will have the Danny Last Call Castillo archive up. But George,
I have a question for you, man. You remember how we were talking about back in the day, like the journalist versus journalist MMA matches?
Yes.
Yep. On the top of our list, who would it be? I think, in my opinion, it would be the Alchemist guys. Like they're now the Alchemist radio guys, like the MC Hammer ball lickers.
But if we were to scrap it out with them, we would do like a grappling match or something.
Yeah, like a really like nice like sanctioned like real rules kind of match, you know.
Oh, you can stick me in there with whoever you want. All right, I have no problem with it. You know that. So, you know, if that we can do that, and we can put it on a podcast if you'd like, and we can every hit, you know, every person can pay $1 or whatever, and we'll give all the money to some charity. I don't give a shit. That's fine. I mean, if that was an idea thrown at me, I'm not going to turn it down.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
I accept, if that's what you're asking.
I don't really know what I'm talking about.
Anything else? Yeah, one last thing. Come train with me at Elite Edge ATL. So yeah, that's my one last thing. Come get some. Had a couple guys from Bellator and had Bigfoot Silva in there. So yeah, fun stuff. Come get it.
Come get some. George Matthews, BJPenn.com radio. Hey brother, should I play our little music? Should we get some new music? I'm feeling like we should get some new music.
We can't go too over the board. As much as we'd love to have like Tupac or something kicking when we're coming on and leaving, it's copyright. But yes, you know, we need some intro and outro music. This is doing for now, but yeah, you know, you have good touch, so you know what you're listening to. I let you work the magic.
All right. Well, for now, this is our outro. George, thank you very much for your time. Dan Hardy, TJ Grant, Danny Castillo, thank you very much for your time. Everybody else will have the transcriptions out on these interviews later this week on BJPenn.com, your number one source for MMA news. Thanks, George.
All right, man.